Hi, welcome to the first episode of MintyEvening. Today, we will dive into the topic of maturity and how it might help you achieve a more fulfilling and happier life. Stay tuned. One of the worst things that we have in lives is suffering. Perpetual, anxious, fearful suffering that just doesn't dissipate whenever we go. And I think one of the biggest reasons why we have this emotion in our lives is because we place unrealistic expectations onto reality. Let's dive more into the reasons why this is happening and how can we deal with this. Since the very early childhood, we are forced to do certain things for others so that they, for example our parents, can fulfill our own best interests and basic needs. And if we break this agreement, bad things will happen. Parents will be angry, they will scream at us, and it doesn't look good. So we fear for our life. The problem is, as we grow older, we still maintain the same sort of conviction that we need to fulfill our best interest through other people. So we sacrifice a lot of our free time in order to please others so that they in turn will satisfy whatever needs we might not have, even if that's subconscious. It's a very inefficient thing and leads to a lot of suffering and disappointment. But there is one caveat. If you grow older, other people are not your parents, and you still treat them like your parents in the childhood, which leads to a lot of disappointment. For example, you do a lot of things to help other people. You try your best to be nice to them, and they treat you poorly, or even harm you in some way, which does not really correspond to what you did to them in the first place. Self-deception leads to regret and pain. We go into this deep introspective mode, trying to analyze whatever was happening to us, thinking about the reasons why it happened and not thinking about what actually happened. I would argue that the purpose of any adult person's life is to become more mature. But what is maturity? I would say it's the ability to take responsibility, the ability to confront reality directly, as opposed to what children are doing, that they try to adapt the reality to their own wishes and not perceive the reality as it is, meaning that ultimately maturity is just the difference of perception. The reality doesn't really change that much, but the child perceives reality very differently from how an adult perceives it. Working with reality directly can be very beneficial to any person. But how can we actually do that? There are a couple of points here. First would be to take conscious action to get to know yourself better. Saying yes and saying no. Too often we try to please other people in order for them to fulfill our own best interests, as I said, and this always leads to a lot of disappointment. So if you don't like to do something, just say no. It's very hard, but it will lead to a much more satisfying, conscious life. Another point would be to deal with trauma. Trauma very often distorts reality and it creates a lot of fear and pain associated with certain situations in life, which are not really that dangerous. Because situations that we perceived as being bad in our childhood create dissociation from parts or emotions of ourselves that we need to confront and deal with. This constructive, mature selfishness, which would mean pragmatism, which would mean really knowing yourself and understanding your deep inner needs and understanding reality as it is and being able to work with that, is a great path forward. Short-term selfishness usually is not even maturity. It's about collaborative and empowering mindset. So what are some ideas that might help us orient ourselves in this crazy, chaotic world and become more in touch with reality? Now, first basic principle and the goal of life is to have a good, positive experience of yourself every day. And this can help you measure where you are in your career or in your relationship or with yourself and help you adjust your decision-making based upon this. Now, quite frankly, very often it's not really about what you do in your career, it's more about the people you do it with. Because these people can help you perceive your goal of self-improvement, which is a much better motivation for your career than just getting money, and much more mature motivation. This human mature selfishness can be a very useful tool to actually get out there and really create a very fulfilling, wonderful life. because it would make sense to make decisions based on your own best interests that would lead to a long-term happiness, because you align who you are and the reality as close together as possible, so you can be much more effective than people around you. Again, one of the biggest hindrances of a long-term happy life is fear. And where does fear that is always there and always trying to cripple around in your mind, where does it come from? It usually comes from imaginary threats that are not really there, such as, oh, if I pissed off this person, there will be very bad consequences for me. Or if I don't pursue this career path, people will think badly of me. Fear is usually really based in illusion. And the best way to combat this fear-inducing self-delusion is to sit down every day and to study yourself, to take time off, to do simple things such as meditation and exercise to really change the rhythm of your life so you have more perspective on what is going on. Because we like to concentrate on the things that bring us the most emotions in life. By doing this, you might have quite enough tools to really have a fantastic and fulfilling life, which I really hope for you. I hope that you found at least one idea in this video useful. Please let us know what kind of topics you would like to have covered in the future. That'll be very helpful, and we hope that we bring value to you as well. Thank you very much and have a really wonderful week ahead.